You know what needs to be in for 2024? Male yearning. Hear me out now. Who really benefits from a situationship? Genuinely, who benefits from a nonchalant man? Who benefits from a situation where you don't know where you stand with him? I say we drop all of that and we go on strike until they start writing Italian poetry and immortalizing us in art again. What am I to you if not your muse? Honestly, the only linking that I want to be doing with you at 3 a.m, sir, is linking our hearts and minds together to stand the test of time.
Women be yearning for men to start yearning.
Bitch, what I was trying to say is this situation got me so wet and so dry at the same time. Exactly.
What's up, bitches? Welcome back to another episode of So Wet, So Dry. I'm one of your hosts, Fiji, like the island, like the water. I am a professional yearner, and I work in social media and marketing.
And I am your other host, Autumn, like the season. Fiji's got me on some coquette vibes recently, and I work in entertainment. If you guys are new here, what we do on So Wet, So Dry is we explore duality through deep diving topics about sex, relationships, personal identity, all where internet trends and reality collide. We do post polls and give an opportunity for y'all to submit stories for every single episode that we put out. So make sure you are following us on Instagram at So Wet So Dry. The O's are zeros. That is where we post everything. So you got to follow us there to be a part of that. And we would love you to be. And also just in general, wherever you guys are listening, wherever you are in the world, please just stop, subscribe, follow, interact with us with any way that you want to and can. We are very active in the comments, especially on YouTube and all that. So we would love to have you join our community of confused pussies.
And today we are talking about yearning and how it's trending online. Why are the girls and gays yearning so much? Are straight men yearning as well? Will our yearnings ever be satisfied? And how do we cope with yearning? But before we get into all of that, we're going to start the episode as we always do, talking about what we're so wet and so dry about in this very moment. So I will go first. As you guys know, I talked about last week how I broke all of my limbs and I had no surgery and whatever. And I'm just so wet and so grateful about the close group of friends that I have and how helpful that they've been throughout this whole experience. One of my friends, Sean, is staying with me right now, and honestly, thank fucking God he has been, because he's been able to take my dog out. He went with me to my surgery, and someone needed to bring me home and everything. He stayed with me. He canceled work. My other friend, Lo, she is a professional dog walker. Shout out, because I know she listens. Oh, she came over to walk my dog. My man has been helping out as well. So, I don't have any family in Atlanta, but, end of the day, I'm just, so grateful that I do have people I can call, when things go wrong, you know?
Yeah, especially because it's really scary, not having family when things do go wrong. You're in the hospital. When you're in that sort of situation, you really need people that you feel will just drop everything for you in a healthy way and all of that. But yeah, so that's awesome. I would say I'm a wet. So this documentary came out a little bit of not a long time ago, a month ago or whatever. It's on HBO. It's called Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV. And when I first saw it, I was so excited that things were, finally happening. It was mainstream that these problems were occurring and have occurred, because I've been known about the Sickalodian and all that shit. It's been trending on YouTube for a very long time. So I was really happy that it was that mainstream. But then I started thinking, started talking with my family, and also a lot of, stuff and creators are coming out saying the documentary didn't really do anything about providing a solution. They didn't share any organizations that are actively working to stop this sort of thing. And there are, there's this organization called Eat Predators by Alexa Nicholas, and they literally work to stop predators in fucking Hollywood. And it's they just didn't offer any sort of support or have any hotlines. There was none of that. So I was just damn, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and I've seen on TikTok questions about exploiting some of the people who didn't agree to have their face in the documentary as well. So there's that line of like what's okay and what's not. Like they didn't give the green light, so it's a little bit iffy.
Like Amanda Bynes and Ariana Grande, they were in that documentary maybe more times than the people that were actually in the documentary. Like they were completely like the whole fucking thing. Like the first thing I've heard people talk about that, oh, did you see that video of Ariana Grande? And she wasn't even fucking in it. Like she didn't, you know. That's traumatic. Not everyone wants to relive that in a fucking documentary. Like, maybe they just want to relive it in therapy. Like, and so it's like, yeah. So it's just, it's a little messy, but I'm wet that, like, people are seeing that. And, like, we're understanding as a society that, like, that could have been done a lot better.
Yeah, definitely. Before I get into my dry, I do have one more wet, which kind of goes along with the topic about just, like, media and, like, trauma and sharing stories and all of that. I watched Baby Reindeer when I was recovering, and I forget the name of the guy that acted in it, but he like wrote the story as well. He wrote it and acted in it, which I feel like was why it was literally just, it was just so fucking good. Like so powerful. Like I don't think I've ever and it's interesting because he's like a man, you know, like our stories of like trauma and abuse and stuff we've been through are very different. But I think he did, and it's queer as well. He's male, he's queer. But it like touches a bunch of different topics. But the way that he balanced like humor with like raw, just like human shit, and like how, you know, healing from trauma isn't linear and it doesn't always make sense, and like the ways that you have to cope with other people, like without giving too much away. I just thought it was like beautifully done. And it's so like, that's why it's so important for people who have survived trauma to tell their own stories, because they do such a better job. So definitely watch that if you guys are into it. And then as far as so dry, I'm just so dry because, you know, I've been healing and all that stuff, and I can't work out right now. Like broken ankle, broken arm, like I can move it a lot better than I could before, and my nose. And I had bought my yoga mat and everything, like my whole fucking body. But I had like just started up with yoga again. Like I was going at 7 a.m. like twice the week that I broke stuff, and just like broke my routine. Like, ugh.
I know. I knew this was gonna happen for you because I was like, because I peeped. Like, I knew that you were, like, feeling that. And I was like, fuck. But I didn't want to say anything because you're, like, not even thinking about that at first. You're just like, I can't believe I survived.
No, it was the first thing that I thought about, though. Because I'm like, you know, it takes a lot, like, to even want to go to the gym.
And to get in that grind, that habit.
Yeah, and I haven't been feeling great about my body. Like, I gained some weight. Like, I'm just, you know, trying to be at peace with it. But, like, I would like to be healthier, like, all of that stuff. And, like, laying in bed for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Not fucking ideal. So.
Yeah. No, it's similar to my dry because it's like I didn't break any limbs, but, like, I was unemployed for, like, 2 months. And I was, like, able to work out. Like, not the whole time, but, like, right at the end.
You were going hard.
I was really in the, exactly what I'm saying. It's like that habit was built. It was just, like, I was enjoying it, my music. And then after getting this new job that I have, it's like, bitch, like, I really give everything to this new job. So it's like, I'm not doing my skincare. I'm not going outside. I'm not, you know. And my producer even said to me, she was like, you know what, girl, like, work-life balance. Like, I feel like the people in my, like, the workspace are very supportive of, like, taking breaks. But I'm the problem because I can't stop. I work weekend hours, not because some people tell me to, because I'm a fucking try-hard. And I wasn't always a try-hard in school. No. In other jobs, no. It's just because I genuinely, like, feel like this is like a big stepping stone, like on my resume, this specific job. Like, I just want to absolutely annihilate everything. Yeah. So, but it's like I need to like figure that out. But yeah, work out who? Like, I don't have time for her anymore, but I want to as well. Like, it's so
we're gonna
fucking
get
hard.
back. We're gonna find the balance. There's peaks and valleys, but that's what I've just been telling myself. Like, we're gonna have these moments, but it means, you know, we're gonna figure it out.
But in the morning before work,
it's
how do you guys?
But that's how I used to do it. Like, when I had a personal trainer, which was so much easier, because when you have someone that you have to meet for an appointment that you're gonna let down, it's like you're gonna go.
Yeah, okay, sure.
But I really want to. We can do it. It's possible.
No, we
just,
will.
Like you said, we need to find a fucking balance. And usually I feel like both of us just burn ourselves out way too easily.
Exactly. And then we want to order food and like not do
Right,
anything.
and
But
binge.
that's how y'all
Exactly.
bitches are listening too, I'm sure. Like, that's human shit. So
we
we'll
live
figure
in
it out.
extremes. Yeah.
Right. But as Fiji said, today, y'all, we are talking about yearning. Yearning is trending online. Why are the girls and the gays and whoever else yearning so much? What is this shit all about? So per usual, we're going to break it down, define the word yearning. The definition that we found is yearning is a feeling of intense longing for something or a tender or urgent longing.
Yes, usually very urgent. And then also, we looked at this article from daysdigital.com, and it did talk a lot about the connection to nostalgia and also the hope for the future, like this innate desire.
Right.
But they pretty much said, obviously, yearning is nothing new. The term, which comes from the Germanic word eager, has been in use for over 800 years. Longing and yearning are deeply inherent to the human condition, explains psychotherapist Patricia Jackson, who says these feelings are just a part of, quote, a universal human quest for meaning and fulfillment. The most common form of yearning is the romantic kind, for a connection so rare and intoxicating that it will lift you out of your everyday drudgery.
Drudgery is crazy, but I feel like the quest to find like fulfillment and like meaning in your life is like one of my favorite conversations like that. So I'm like, that's why I'm so obsessed with the afterlife and like what happens after we die. Like, did we do what we needed to do?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that it talks about how this is like an innate part of the human condition, because we are going to get into a little bit more later how like, you know, women are socialized versus queer people and like everything like that, and how yearning plays into that as well. But like, I also liked how she said that it's like the most common form is the romantic kind, because when I was sick and dying, I was watching a video essay about rom-coms and how there's been like no good recent rom-coms recently. And I think it's because like she was saying essentially like the old ones had a lot more of this like you related to the character, like the woman character, because she was like in her 30s, she was fed up with her job, she wanted love so badly, da-da-da-da-da. Like it was kind of like this like underdog character that you were rooting for because they really wanted this thing, versus like today's rom-coms are way too like pretty and tied up and just not
And
it.
bad. I know.
Yeah.
And you know what's so crazy, bitch? I haven't even told you this, but there's this class I'm going to take. It's like Thursday nights or whatever, like for an hour. It's like chill. But it's literally a rom-com screenwriting class.
Oh my God,
And
yes.
I found it in the Emerson Mafia, like one of the Emerson Mafia people. But anyways, in literally that, because it's like,
Yeah.
it's so true. Like you think of like the classic rom-coms, like you think of like When Harry Met Sally, you think of like,
Yes, they talked about that one.
you think of like 19 Candles, like whatever that shit is.
Yeah.
Or the 27
there's that
Dresses.
new one with Sydney Sweeney. I haven't seen it, but I haven't heard great reviews. And we're going to talk about One Day a little bit, which is that new show rom-com kind of vibe. And I also just feel like yearning is like a core part of like what it means to make art and why we make art. Like when you think about like music, film, literature, writing, so much of that is like about yearning, trying to fill this like gaping like whole void that we have inside of ourselves, which kind of brings me to our first discussion question. So I wanted to ask you, what does yearning feel like to you, and what emotions do you generally associate with yearning for yourself?
Woo! That's a big one. I do want to say with the music, like that's so true, because I've never thought about that. But it's like, yeah, every song is kind of like yearning for something. What yearning feels like to me, like, I don't feel like it's 100% positive all the time. Like sometimes I feel like I can yearn in like a negative way, where it's like, I'm not good enough. I really want this life for myself. And when I do have this life, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
But I do think yearning sometimes can be like a little bit more fun. Like if you're in a better part of your life, you could like yearn for things that like are like actually possible. They're not like far-fetched, and they're like achievable goals. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense, because I feel you. Like, I feel like when I'm yearning for things and I put like a negative connotation for it, like I don't always cope with it the best way, which we're
Right.
going to get into later in this episode, like how people can kind of take on like bad coping mechanisms when it comes to yearning. But as I was doing this episode, I was also just like thinking about like our time at Emerson, and like I studied writing, literature, and publishing, and like back then I was writing so much more poetry, and I do think like I do also associate yearning with like a positive feeling. Like usually when I'm writing, it's addressing some sort of topic that has to do with yearning, and I kind of think of it as almost this like romanticized like feeling when you're like in a coffee shop and you're like writing to fill this like thing that you don't have, but you're like creating art from it. So I think it can be really beautiful too.
That's so fucking real. And I feel like also like I've done like manifesting is kind of like yearning. Yep. And it's like I think I've done some really amazing like manifesting journal entries, which were again like achievable for me, not so far-fetched that it felt impossible. And I think it makes you feel good about yourself. It's also just nice to know that like there's more out there. Like I feel like if you're not yearning for something, it's like, what is the point of life?
Right, exactly. You need something to like drive you and keep you going forward.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's why I feel like exactly like what that thing said. It's like that, not that thing, that snippet that we read at the beginning of the episode. Like yearning has a lot to do with like the purpose of life. And I think that's really cool. But I'm like, I don't know. Because at first I was really thinking like it's negative. Like I'm yearning for things that I don't have. But I think bringing up the art thing is like really interesting. Because I think like yearning is art. Like what you're saying. It really is.
Yeah. Kind of going off of that, I want to talk a little bit about how yearning has been trending so much online. And the first thing I want to start with is the Reddit thread Yearning. We're going to get into a lot of other Reddit posts about yearning that are on different threads. But this one, the description says a place for music, videos, art, writing, and anything else that makes you feel intense, indescribable yearning, which I think plays into a lot of what we're talking about with the relation to like art and music and everything like that. But another thing that's been trending and why people are just talking about yearning so much is the movie Saltburn, which you did watch now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Saltburn is so much about yearning. You know, he has this intense crush
Fiji,
on
you're
his
so
friends.
gullible. I didn't watch it.
I thought you did.
Because I lie, because I get scared that you're going to get mad at me.
It's okay. I'll be our film fanatic. But yeah, we're not going to get into it too much. We did talk about it in, what episode was that?
Period sex.
We talked about it in Period Sex, yes. And also One Day, the TV show, it follows a guy and a girl that are like friends but have this like longing for each other, and they write letters. It's set in I think the 80s. So both of those, you know, intense longing, I think that they're like good representations of like the romantic, not really comedy that like we want.
Yearning in the 80s, like writing letters, that's a way different situation. Now we yearn with like 3-dimensional vision boards. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and nostalgia plays a big part into yearning as well. Like, even when trend cycles trend, like people are yearning for a time. Like, I saw office core is trending right now. Like, people in Gen Z are yearning for like office culture because we all work remotely. Like, we're so
I
ridiculous.
heard that too. I don't feel that way.
Yeah,
but we're also on the other
way
end
either.
of Gen Z. Like, we're very close to millennial. I'm like realizing more.
And I'm hybrid. Like, my new job, like, rarely go into the office.
Oh,
but
yeah,
I've been
you
hybrid.
do.
Yeah, and when I lived in London, I went into the office and stuff. Like, there is something cool about getting dressed for work and going into the office. But, like,
I'm not yearning for it.
I'm not yearning for it either. But beyond that, the emoji with the big eyes that's like,
I know.
Like,
and then literally people literally going like this, like if you're listening audio when they stick their fingers together in like a cute way. I was telling Fiji earlier, like, I don't know why it makes me cringe. I know it's like a big trend and everyone thinks it's all so cute, but I don't like it personally.
See, I think it's really cute. I thought it was cringe at first, but
it's very yearning.
It's very yearning. And we found this article on Substack by Mary Retta, and she talks about why we yearn. And we're going to come back to this article a couple times throughout the episode. But she said, when I first heard the word yearn, the first image that comes to mind is that of the pleading face emoji, which I have also dubbed the yearn emoji. The emoticon, which is currently the third most popular used on Twitter, says very much while not saying anything at all. Emojipedia describes the yearn emoji as a yellow face with furrowed brows, a small frown, and large puppy dog eyes that, quote, may also represent adoration or feeling touched by a loving gesture. The emoji is a bundle of contradictions, at once happy and sad, satisfied and wanting more. Its current popularity on social media suggests that we too have been experiencing this range of emotions with unpredicted frequency.
What the fuck? That's crazy that emoji is the most third on Twitter, or the most whatever, you know what I mean? But it makes sense. People be using that emoji, even guys. The guys use that emoji all the time. But it's interesting that she heard the word yearn and she thought of that emoji immediately. I feel like that's not what comes to my mind immediately, but yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I didn't think of it immediately either, but then I'm like, it makes so much sense. And I think it's actually kind of cute that guys are using it because maybe they do have more emotions than we think.
Right.
Which we're going to get into in a little bit. Other stuff that's been trending online is lots of memes. And if you guys follow us on So Wet So Dry, you know that we love memes. I actually have a meme page. And
Fiji
memes.
makes her own memes.
I make a lot of memes, usually inspired by our episode topics, so definitely follow us for more. But I found quite a few memes about yearning, and also this like little Reddit screenshot that said, I'm worried my entire life will be yearn. And other memes that say yearning level today, catastrophic, suffering from third-degree yearns, which I literally used as my caption for today's picture. This is where I yearn and rot. It's a bed. And then the cycle of I yearn in a cycle. So it's obviously relatable. Girls are going through this. They're usually like the little puppy dog face, like the I yearn cycle one, or they're very girly with that kind of coquette look.
And I feel like especially with these memes, like this is where I yearn and rot, suffering from third degree yearns, like I feel like it is kind of about like romantic stuff. Like I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like the most trendy stuff is like always about a relationship. Like especially when we're talking about the girls and the gays, like I feel like they want relationships really bad. But I also think like it could be in like the art sense as well, which is cool. I feel like a lot of people that are hip to like yearning in general are probably like artsy human beings. I don't know.
Yeah, and I also like the one that I like the most is this is where I yearn and rot, because like I think I rot in bed a lot. Like, you know, like we just talked about, we go so hard and then we get burnt out and we just want to lay in bed and do nothing. And I think like sometimes when you're in bed, you're like trying to appreciate the moment of like, this is resting, this is calm, but you're also always feeling this feeling of like wanting more, or wanting to do something else, or like whatever, which I think a lot of us have felt throughout the pandemic and like
it's
all
like
of that stuff.
Like a constant state of yearning. Oh.
Yes, exactly. We're all yearning all the time. And according to our poll, guys, we asked you guys, have you ever felt yourself yearning? And our suspicions were correct. 96% of you guys said yes, and only 4% said no.
So that was
and
like,
then,
what, 2 people?
Right, like nobody, essentially. And then we also asked you guys, how often do you feel yourself yearning? 44% said constantly, 44% said occasionally, 12% said rarely, and 0% said never.
Yeah, I feel like I'm yearning maybe occasionally. I think I used to yearn more when I was younger, to be honest with you. But I feel like as I get older, I'm kind of just like trying to like, you know, survive out here. Like,
I think you do yearn though, because like the things that you'll text me and stuff sometimes, like I know both of us kind of yearn for that time where we were in college or we were in the same city. You know, like that time where we were like free, and like even though a bunch of other bad shit was going on, but like, you know, we also yearn for like when we're gonna be successful with the podcast and like stuff like that.
Yeah,
so I feel like it's easy to think about romanticism and like relationships, but there's so many other things.
Yeah, maybe that's it. It's like I'm not yearning for that romance right now, so I don't feel like I am. But yeah, and I think it's also just like not being like 100% happy with your life, which like we probably won't ever be 100%
Right.
happy with it. But when you feel that way, it's like you're kind of yearning, maybe even subconsciously, just like through your daydreams. You don't really realize it as much. But I think the polls are really telling. And I'm just like, I'm interested to see like if people yearn in a positive way or in a negative way, because I'm like, is constantly yearning bad? Like that feels like a little bit too much. But if you're like, you know, always making movies and writing poems and you're yearning 24/7, I mean, that's fine. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's like a balance between like yearning and like action, which we're kind of going to talk about later, like wanting
the
something so
achievable
bad,
shit.
and then going after it. And I also do think a lot of it's related to like, I think about like teenage girlhood and like when we were in college, like there was so much that we wanted but didn't feel capable of and just felt stuck and all of that stuff, versus now I think I still yearn for a lot, but I'm a lot more at peace with my life.
Right. And I know we're
know?
going to get into the gay stuff later, but I definitely feel like a part of coming out is like yearning to be the type of like lesbian you want to be. Like,
Yes.
I was always super femme, but I didn't see anyone super femme. So I wanted to be that like SoCal, like skateboarder lesbian, which like who the fuck, like that's not me, but I was yearning to be that.
For that image, that identity, that connection.
All that, yeah.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about why do we yearn. So the same article from Mary Retta on Substack, she said, since perhaps 2018, words like tender, earnest, wholesome, and soft have also made their way into popular conversation, demonstrating a collective desire for a type of simple sweetness not commonly found today. The ubiquity of these terms might denote the normalization of a desire for softness, but this language is also self-aware. We desire tenderness and meaningful connection, but we also understand its scarcity. And I think it's interesting because in our last episode, we talked a little bit about scarcity.
The mindset, yeah.
Yeah, the scarcity mindset and everything like that. But I think, like, I don't know, like, again, I feel like it just goes back to being online. Like, why do you think that we're yearning now more than ever?
Yeah, and I also just want to say, like, we desire tenderness and meaningful connection, but we also understand its scarcity is like, it's like, that's a healthy type of yearning, to understand that you're not just going to get everything. Like, this is like something special that you have to work towards. So like, I really like that. I think, why do we yearn so much today? I don't know. I think a part of it is also being able to see everyone's life so clearly. Like, those are types of lives that you want to yearn for, types of relationships you want to yearn for. It's hard to be in a relationship today. So instead of being in one, I think more people are yearning from them than actually being in one. Yeah. But I think it all just comes with like generational things. Like, I think back in the 80s, again, it's like where you couldn't look someone up online in the same way. You had to write a letter. You had to run into them at the grocery store. It's like, it's kind of like more special, and it's more like you understand its scarcity. Like, it's so...
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say, because I think like that, like right now we have such instant gratification all the time.
Instant.
So if we have these like uncomfortable feelings of like yearning and wanting, like we want to instantly be gratified because that's like what we're used to, versus like I think our parents' generation, like there was time between seeing each other and natural just time between those like acts of softness, love, like whatever, and also you needed to act to get them versus just like go online and watch something, you know? So
right.
I think that maybe, I don't know, maybe they were able to cope with it more just because it was like the environment and they created art around it. I don't know.
And I even think just like seeing people go viral on TikTok for like nothing, like Charlie D'Amelio, for example, it's like, you see how that's kind of like accessible. But that was like a lucky thing. That was like right place, right time. Like, and I'm not hating on her at all, but that's just the example. Like, and I feel like we see things like that and then we want that too. And those types of like quick fame like that wasn't really a thing before the social media and all of that. But I feel like yearning is complicated because it really could, like, for me, I keep relating it to like yearning to a different life. I'm not yearning for that relationship. Yeah. But it's said, like, most of the times it is about romance.
Yeah, that's generally what we associate it with because so much art, I feel like, is around that. But that's kind of what we asked you guys next in the polls. We asked, what do you yearn for? And this article that I found broke it up. There's more than just these, but I grouped them. So what won, well, we had a tie between intimacy and love was at 26%, acceptance and understanding was also at 26%, and purpose and meaning was also at 26%, and community and family was very close behind at 22%. So it's pretty evenly split, which I think just goes to show that, like, we're all yearning, but for different things,
right?
You know?
Which is cool. I like that a lot. For me, it's purpose and meaning. Like, that's the ultimate thing I yearn for. Like, why was I given this life today? Like, all that, like, hippie sort of stuff. Like, I'm very into that. Because, like, I very much believe that we're souls. Like, this, like, body I'm living in is, like, not really mine. It's kind of just, like, the one that I'm in right now.
Yeah.
But, so, I don't know. That's what I definitely yearn for. But I also feel like there's, like, a big part about, like, being in relationships that, like, aren't great and yearning for that relationship to get better. I feel like that's a big part of yearning that I've experienced, like, hard.
Yeah, I think, like, for me, purpose and meaning definitely used to be it a lot more, but I feel like even through doing this podcast and, like, finding myself more, I feel like I've found some purpose and meaning. So I would honestly say it's, like, intimacy and love for me to a point, but also, like, so we're going to talk about each of these. The only one that we're not really going to get into is community and family, but I think that as I've gotten older, like, community and family is one that I yearn for more. And, like, it's funny because, so, like, I haven't always had the best relationship with my family. Like, we're, like, like, I never had anything, like, super traumatic happen, but, like, we haven't been, like, as close. I don't know how to describe, but, like, close, you know what I'm saying? But, like, me and my brother got close recently and we had a big fight, whatever, but he texted me yesterday and I, like, responded today and I was, like, crying about it, like, whatever, but I'm just happy that we're talking again. And I feel like I constantly have this feeling of, like, I live so far away from my family and I really want this, like, love and intimacy, whether from a partner or whether from a family member, that I feel like I don't have and, like, haven't had in a lot of my life, and they feel very, like, interconnected to me. So I think people who have, like, complicated family relationships or don't have family at all, like, they seek it from, like, friends or in other ways, but that's kind of just this, like, gaping hole that they always want, you know?
Yeah, totally. And I think also just being at the age that we are, like, 26 years old, like, it's not just about the romance. Like, you want that community of friends and, like, chosen family to, like, back you up. And I think it's really hard to make friends as an adult. Like, the easiest place to make friends is, like, at the bar, but, like, it's not always a real friendship.
They're
Sometimes
not sustainable.
You just meet and never talk again. I think it could happen for sure, but, like, so I think just adding that onto it is just, like, that makes people yearn for that sort of community even more. But yeah.
Yeah, and we talked about it too, I think, in our male loneliness episode, because, like, a lot of the men are, like, yearning for, like, real friendships, and they're very lonely and stuff like that. So
right. Oh my God, the ultimate fucking yearners, bitch.
Yeah.
But they don't even know, like, they can't self-identify that they are.
Exactly. But let's talk about intimacy and love. A little bit first. So I have this one meme that I thought perfectly fit into what I think about when I think about intimacy and love. And it says, what it feels like to be a true yearner in a play it cool society. So we talked about this in every single fucking episode, guys, but, like, the state of, like, situationships, a lot of women are deciding to be celibate. There's also, like, incels and everything like that. Like, I don't know, like, I feel like we live in this society that's so online. We try to play it cool. We're trying to play this game that everyone says.
The mysterious girl.
Right. When I think a lot of us, like, deep down really do want some sort of connection, whether we, like, say it or not.
Yeah.
So.
And this meme to me is, like, someone that's just wearing their heart on their sleeve. And, like, this little guy, like, he looks mad vulnerable. Like, he's just out here. And it's, like, but it is crazy because we're all really like that. We all are this meme, but I think a lot of us has just been, like, coded to shove that down or whatever. But Yeah, I feel like I've honestly taken on the play it cool so hard that I just don't give a fuck about anyone anymore. I think that's what happens. Like, I don't know. I just got
and
deja vu.
That's a good like place to be in though too. Like I think healing is like a journey, and it's okay to like not want anyone because you're so focused on yourself. But I think what's a little bit like scary and messy is when you have like people like Andrew Tate or even Sheer 7 that we had an episode about that like want people but for these like superficial reasons, or like, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like,
they
it's
don't
not
really
about
want
connection.
you.
Exactly. It's less about love and it's more about like instant gratification and all of those
So
things.
exactly, like this little guy's been like used and fucking like he's
Abused.
on display. Like,
Right.
I
He
feel
just
that.
wants love.
I
Like,
know.
yes.
I like that
And
meme a lot.
me too. It's one of my favorites. But we had a listener story that submitted, and they said, I yearn for a healthy dating life without having to change my lifestyle for acceptance. And I think this is so real.
That's a great
So
story
real.
for last week's episode as well. Like being
Yes.
like not wanting to sacrifice parts of your identity for someone and like change for them. But no, I think that's so real, and that's like kind of what I said too. It's like being in relationships that might have been healthy. They could have gotten there, but they didn't. And that's what it's like. You're shown something and you just want it to be perfect so fucking badly. But unfortunately, this listener story, like in this society, it's kind of fucking hard to make that happen. It shouldn't be, but like, I feel you.
It really is. And it makes me think too that like healthy dating life, like you could have a dating life and you could have your intimacy and love like quote unquote like fixed, but then maybe you're searching for purpose and meaning. Like you're always yearning for something beyond what you have.
Right.
But I think like as far as a healthy dating life goes, like that is something that I think you can like create.
Right.
But you have to be picky and like take your time, because it's not as instantly like available for us. Like those relationships are built not just like
Yeah, it's not just gonna
Bought,
fucking
you know.
pop up. Like, you really do have to wait, and like it'll come at the right time. Like everyone fucking
allegedly.
says.
I don't know, but okay. So now we're gonna get into a little bit about women and why women are yearning, at least online publicly, more than men are. And there's a lot about women talking about like bringing back men that yearn for their women. Like this meme right here that says, bring back men that yearn for their women. I need a love letter that you sealed with wax. Bark like you want it for real.
Right, bro.
Like it's so real. And there's also this TikTok that I just want to play real quick, and then we'll talk about it.
You know what needs to be in for 2024? Male yearning. Hear me out now. Who really benefits from a situationship? Genuinely, who benefits from a nonchalant man? Who benefits from a situation where you don't know where you stand with him? I say we drop all of that and we go on strike until they start writing Italian poetry and immortalizing us in art again. What am I to you if not your muse? Honestly, the only linking that I want to be doing with you at 3 a.m, sir, is linking our hearts and minds together to stand the test of time. Toodles.
Honestly, I fucking love this bitch. Like, she's so real, and the fact that got 1.1 million fucking views, like,
People relate.
that's crazy. Because she's like being funny, but she's being fucking for real. Like, that's actually what we want. And exactly, it's like, who does benefit from the situationship? The man does. Like, we don't, not in every situation, but it's just like, it's so true. And I think, like, honestly, women be yearning for men to start yearning.
Yes.
Like, that's exactly what this TikTok is. So I'm just like, oh, it's like we have to do everything for them. Goddamn. But seriously, they should be immortalizing us in fucking artwork again. Like, what happened?
I know. It really is crazy when you think about, like, how much of, like, male art used to be about like loving women and appreciating women. And like I've been thinking about that when I see like A$AP Rocky and Rihanna, because I think like they're a really cute couple, and like he loves her so much, and like they have a family and like whatever. But it's like, you know, obviously there's still love songs, like men still make art about women, but it's like we're in this era of like play it cool so hard. And I think the girls are like kind of going back to this like softer era of when we were like teenagers, and like when we were more girly and we want to be in our feminine energy and we want to be soft. But like while we're doing all of that, the men are becoming more masculine and more
right. Because it's like 90s R&B even, like Neo, Mario, Usher, like those were like the songs where they were uplifting women, like I want to be with a queen. Now it's what, like Harry Styles? I don't listen to his music, but I'm sure he's talking nice.
Like Rod Wave, I don't really listen to him, but isn't he on some like R&B like love shit?
Like,
I mean,
it
honestly,
exists, but
like Travis Scott's album, honestly, like I really liked his last album, and I think like some of there was some yearning in there. And I feel like with guys, like in his album, for example, like he'd be talking about the bitch that he really loves type shit, like who I'm assuming is Kylie, I don't know. But then like he's going to go fuck another bitch to like deal with it, to cope with it, whatever, which we're going to get into like unhealthy coping mechanisms later. But
I hate Travis Scott as a person, but like I unfortunately also do like his music. I did also like that latest album, but like I just want to make it very clear, like, I don't fuck with him and his decision-making, like, whatsoever. Like, after Astroworld, R.I.P., I can't look at him the same, but, it's annoying because I do like his music. Yeah. But, yeah, it's like guys want to yearn in, like, their, like, kind of sexist way. It's like, it's cool. Like, he had to fuck someone else. Like, I don't know.
Well, actually, now that I think about it, though, like, when you think about artists like Lil Peep or, like, Juice WRLD or the whole, like, emo boy wave, I think they yearn a lot.
both of them.
R.I.P. to both of them. Like, I think they, like, that whole emo boy, when you think about that emoji with the fingers, you kind of think about, like, the emo boy genre. And, like, they definitely do yearn. But I think women in general, because of these situationships, like, I think guys are very afraid to express themselves, which kind of brings us into the next question that we asked you guys.
Wait, last thing I want to say is I feel like, because, like, when you think about women artists that yearn, it's, like, so fucking many. But I think SZA is a really big yearner.
SZA is a top
That's the first
professional yearner.
Like, talk about all the albums. Listen to all the albums from start to finish. Like, that bitch be fuck name, bitch.
Yup. And because also she's always sharing a man or something like
or
that,
like,
too.
It's a lot. And that's why it's like, being insecure in her body. Like, she's talked about in a lot of songs. And, like, that's what she says. It's so relatable and she's stupid talented. But, yeah, I just wanted to say, like, who's, like, because all bitches be yearning in female artists. Like, a lot of them.
And, I mean, I think there is less as we like get into like more rap artists being like popular and stuff. I feel like women are kind of taking on that bad bitch like
and like
whatever.
Mysterious girl, like I don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
that's true.
But there's definitely more like pop artists and R&B and like all of that. Like Summer Walker, definitely a yearner. Like,
Fletcher,
yeah, Fletcher, which we have a whole section about Fletcher
because she is the yearner, and it's because she has the same birthday as you.
Yep,
and you said at the beginning, professional yearner. Like that's crazy. Okay, anyways, next poll.
We asked you guys: do you think yearning is inherently feminine? And I was actually really surprised at these results. Only 22% of you guys said yes and 78% said no.
Because everyone's trying to be like fucking 2024 like
right, like men yearn too.
Right, which yes they do, but I do think like inherently, that's the word we use, inherently, I do think it's feminine. And not feminine like women, trans women, like not like gender, like just thinking about femininity, that men, trans people, non-binary, we all have that. I'm not talking about like feminine is not a gender, so don't get that twisted.
Yes.
But part of femininity is yearning. That's true.
Yes. I think you're right, because I think like as girls, the way that we're socialized, I think especially dealing with boys who cut themselves off from their emotions,
right? Like
yearning and wanting more
is emotional experience.
It's an emotional experience, which is feminine coded, and it's
But I think people get scared because, and I get it, because like today it's like with gender and everything, but it's just like we have to remember that like feminine does not equal female. Feminine does not equal woman. That's not true. Right. And that's not what we're saying. But that literal, just like spiritually, like the feminine energy, and yes, like growing up and things like that, like looking feminine and like being a woman, like they're different things. That's why you have like, you know, femmes, people that don't call themselves women or female, but they're like, I'm a femme. Like that's what it is. So, but yeah, I'm really surprised at it too, but I honestly think people are just scared to say the wrong thing, because I'm always scared to say the wrong thing. So that's why I'm like, I get it.
Yeah, because I think it's like, I mean, obviously at the beginning we talked about it's like an inherent part of the human condition, but like you said, it's so like, everything emotional is so femme-coded that I think that's why men are afraid to show it, even if they do yearn.
Exactly.
It's coded as feminine, so that's why they're
It's like
afraid.
they're yearning in like a Travis Scott rap. That's like their version.
Right.
And I know, it's like, I'm sure he is, like, he's feeling his, because like, rappers, like, yes, they're like rapping about pussy, this and that, but it's still art. Like, a lot of rappers like have a real story arc.
Like that song, do you know that song by Future where it's like, I'm looking for, have you seen her? You know that song, Turn on the Lights, da-da-da?
Yeah,
No?
okay.
Anyway, but it's about him like yearning for this woman that he's
just
like
in
looking
his
for.
own way.
In his own
future
way.
Sexy
It's still,
fuck.
right.
I
it's
love
still
him.
yearning. But I want to talk a little bit about how men definitely do fucking yearn. And I found this Reddit post.
Oh, God.
And this guy said, I yearn for the day I have a caring, loving girlfriend, parentheses, never had one. And then he shared this meme that says, me waking up, having a nice dream about my loving, caring, beautiful girlfriend who I was sad from because she was moving away due to her parents moving. I don't have a girlfriend in real life. And then what was so sad to me is someone replied to this thread and said, loser posting. And then the guy who had originally posted just put a sad face. And I feel like this is just an example that I see online a lot. Like even, what was it, Nonchalant versus Loverboy, where we had the Andrew Tate clip with the guy that was like respecting his girlfriend and he was like, oh, you're just a bitch, like whatever. Like I think when men do show that they yearn, other men are really fucking mean to them.
Okay, so Fiji's had more time to sit with the outline than I have. Let's talk about initial reactions.
Okay.
Initial reaction to this, I'm like, well, what are you doing wrong? However, if a woman posted and said, I yearn for the day I have a loving boyfriend, I'm like, girl, I feel you men suck.
Yes.
But for him, I'm like, what are you doing wrong? Because women are loving and caring, so it must be you. But again, I said initial reaction. That was the initial reaction. Now looking back, I don't know this individual. Like, maybe he's not an incel. Like, maybe he is a nice guy. He just hasn't found it. I don't think calling him a loser or a pussy is going to do anything. That's also, like, misogynistic or whatever. But I just had to say that because it's kind of, like, that is where my mind goes. I'm like, well, what's wrong with you, bro? I'm like, because what's wrong with you?
Well, and that's the hard thing. Like, I had watched this video again while I was, like, in bed for 2 weeks. That was, like, about incels or whatever. And, like...
Yeah, you are a content whore. And imagining you not having to do anything else but
I
that.
can't with Netflix.
You scare
like,
me, bro.
I got sick of it. All I wanted to watch was YouTube videos. But, like, even talking about incels, like... It's just so hard because, like, we've had a lot of, like, what we would code as incels commenting on our videos saying really hateful bullshit things. But,
and
like,
we're fat and ugly.
Right, all that shit. But, like, the actual term incel is, like, involuntarily celibate man. And there are some incels who are just, like, men who would like to have relationships with women who are involuntarily celibate because it's, like, involuntarily. Like, they want to, but they can't. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure that there's, like, lots of guys out there that aren't just incels, but just, like, do want a real relationship with a woman. Like, even our Loverboy and Nonchalant Man episode, like, when we talk about the Loverboys, like, sometimes they do too much.
Right.
And they attract toxic women. So, like, I do think that there is, like, we're so apt to, like, pay attention to these quote-unquote alpha males and, like, da-da-da-da because they're the ones that piss us off all the time. Well, we kind of, like... you know, make fun of and bully, like, and ignore the nice guys, you know, like...
Because we don't give them a chance. And it's also, like, I'm not saying it's hard to be a man in society, but, like, if you're short, if you're balding, like, it is hard to get a girl today because it's so much, like, men have to be perfect if we're going to spend our time. So, like, I get it. Like, I'm sure there are some guys out there that are involuntarily celibate that are
Yeah.
fine human beings, but it's like initial reaction, like, why do we just want to fight? And like, I feel like,
know.
so I think that's why, like, this episode, like, male loneliness, like, taking into account male feelings is like a lifelong journey. I really do think, because especially today, and like, I don't think I'm right all the time. I don't think it's right for me to have an initial reaction like, what's wrong with you? Yes, it's funny, but I'm just being like dead ass. Like, that's how I feel.
But I also think it like causes us women to like reflect on ourselves sometimes too, because like even with that initial TikTok, like I feel like we're so quick to blame men and be like, oh, men don't yearn anymore, da 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 da. But like, I think sometimes we do need to step outside of things and pay attention to our own actions and who we're giving our time to, because like there are men that yearn, and it isn't always fair for us to like completely group them with everybody else. Meanwhile, this guy is like yearning publicly and people are making fun of him, like, you know, so it's kind of like.
And maybe we aren't giving men the space to yearn in certain situations. Like, how it's like, you know, like we silence men, like when we like cry, like not all the time, but sometimes. And it's like they don't know how to deal with that. So it's like, yeah, I can definitely see how a part of it is like on society. And that is really sad that someone said loser posting and then he did a sad face. That's so me, honestly, because sometimes it's just like, yeah, like, okay, like just knock me down even more, like whatever.
I know, like, he should have put the emoji. Like, that would have been, like,
that would have been perfect.
But the last thing, like, within the whole intimacy and love yearning section is yearning for someone that you can't have. I want to talk about this a little bit because I did see a lot of posts on different Reddit threads, and one was yearning for the cute girl at work who got engaged to her fitness influencer high school sweetheart with rich parents. I think he played badminton in the Olympics or something. I don't know. I never met him. I'm sure he's a nice guy. And someone replied, I'm yearning for someone I haven't talked to in 4 years but have seen twice in the past 5 days. And so first I want to talk a little bit about, like, have we ever yearned for someone we couldn't have and what that feeling is like? Because we kind of talked about it in our last episode, but yeah.
Duh, the fuck we have. That's not all I do constantly is yearn for people I don't have, that I can't have. Like my delusional crush, I still yearn for her. I yearn for, like, Drew Afualo to, like, break up with her boyfriend and be like, I'm gay, and Autumn, I think you're the one for me. Like, I yearn for my toxic ex to come back and be like, you know what I mean? It's just, like, that's all I do. And I think even growing up in high school and, like, all of that, it's, like, that's all I did back then. And it's, like, part of it is, like, well, I don't really want something real, so, of course, I'm going to yearn for somebody that I can't have because it's not really going to work out. But it's literally all I fucking do all the time. Even if I don't even like that ex, I still yearn for them to reach out to me.
Because it's like a nostalgia thing too. But yeah, I just think of like that crush I had in college. Literally, I had a crush on him for what? Like 6 years? Like probably still a little bit. Like, I don't know. Like, but I also want to bring up limerence, which I'm going to just read the definition of. Limerence is the state. Limerence is the state of being infatuated or obsessed with another person, typically experienced involuntarily and characterized by a strong desire for reciprocation of one's feelings, but not primarily for a sexual relationship. And this was trending also a lot on TikTok, and it has very much to do with yearning, but it's kind of like a more intense degree, and it's usually someone that you've never had like any sort of romantic relationship with, but there's like the potential of it, and people literally have to go to therapy for it. Like, it's a whole intense thing. I think we could potentially do an episode about it in the future. I don't want to go into it too much, but I do think that my yearning for that crush that I had in college was bordering on limerence. I mean, like, we did have like a friendship and like we talked and stuff, and there was like he like had like commented on some of my pictures. Like, there was like interest on both sides at points, but I was obsessed with him for a very long time and yearning, and I feel like it was just this void, this like something that I could like hyper focus on.
Dude, I have literally the perfect fucking example because you and I weren't as close. This was like freshman year. Like, we didn't know each other even really yet, I don't think. But I had like matched with this girl on Tinder, and like she like wasn't really down. And like I had the inside knowledge that, like, she was kind of with her ex because, like, a friend of a friend knew her, whatever. Bro, I yearned for this girl for days on nights. I would stay up late, like, praying that she would want me. Like, literally, like, trying to manifest and, like, visualing us on the beach. Like, and I could tell her, like, how much I wanted her, but she never, like, liked me back. And, like, like, so many, like, we actually did end up, like, hooking up. And, like, but it was, like, later after I was, like, I wasn't even, like, down as much anymore because I had done all that limerencing. And I was, like... So it's like scary, and I feel like, especially for queer girls, that's like our thing. That is our thing. Like, that is all we fucking do. Like, you see someone on Tumblr and you're fucking limerencing. Like, it's just like, that was it.
Okay, so talking about the queer experience, that kind of transitions us into acceptance and understanding. And we're going to talk about both. It's kind of like intimacy and love as well as acceptance and understanding, but united by the queer experience.
So we're going to start off with this quote. In the past, yearning has been seen as an intrinsic part of the queer experience, where love has been more likely to play out in secret or never reach its full potential. This is still true today. In fact, most queer people's formative romantic experiences are defined by unrequited love.
Unrequited.
What does that word mean? Like, it never
like,
fully
not
got there?
Not reciprocated.
Got it. But there are other forms of yearning too. Quote, there's a more abstract and intangible form of longing that is often elusive and challenging to define. Ancient Greeks called it the nostalgic longing for the unknown, adds Jackson. Yearning has been infused with radical political potential, particularly in conversations about Black liberation. Zora Neale Hurston's 1937 novel, Their Eyes Were Watching God, argued that it was vital for everyone, regardless of race or privilege, to live a life filled with dreams and longing. Knowing what we want is the first step to empowerment. Bell Hooks also wrote about being struck by the depths of yearning in most people, which for her represented a longed for liberation, the freedom to control one's destiny.
Yeah,
Wow.
so I thought this quote was like really interesting because we read Their Eyes Were Watching God. Do you remember?
In that class?
In that class, we read it. I don't completely remember the book. It's been so long. I'd like to reread it because I feel like it was really good.
The name sounds familiar, mostly because I knew how to, like, pronounce it.
Zora Neale Hurston, yeah. But I think, like, you know, acceptance and understanding when you're, like, a marginalized community, like, whether you're queer, whether you're, like, Black in America, Native American in America, Asian, like, whatever, like, I think there's this, like, yearning to be, you know, accepted, understood, all of those things. So it is very political as well. And, like, also, like, for women, you know, sexism in the past, like, Virginia Woolf wrote a lot about, like, yearning for, like, a room of her own. Like, she wanted a space of her own back when, like, women couldn't own, like, their own houses and stuff. So I think, like, yearning is very political, which is cool. But, like, mostly here we're going to talk about the queer experience.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad that you included that because I think, like, thinking about yearning and thinking about, like, being queer, it's, like, a whole different kind of thing. It's, like, very, like, deep-rooted, like, inner, you know?
Yeah, and it's almost like yearning for acceptance and understanding even, like, within your own body and psyche.
Of just
because,
yourself.
Like, Right, because, like, you could want this, like, queer relationship or, like, you have this, like, for women who, like, grew up, you know, trying to fit into heterosexual relationships or whatever, and then, like, realizing that there's, like, something that's not completely fulfilled within you, which we're going to have a Reddit story that's kind of, like, about that. So I think it's, like, understanding and acceptance from, like, communities and families and all of that, but also, like, internally makes it, like, so much deeper.
I know, because especially with, like, being gay, like, a lot of people struggle because it's like they know that they're gay but they don't want to be, and like that sort of acceptance of yourself is, like, even scarier because you are, like, you have the full control in that situation, whereas with society it's like we feel out of control. We don't really have control over that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm so excited to get into the next part, though. So, can
Yes.
you introduce it?
Okay, yeah. So next we're going to talk about Fletcher, guys. So, like, Autumn's been doing the outlines for all the past episodes, but I did this one. And I came across Fletcher, and I know Autumn fucking loves Fletcher. I haven't really listened to any of her music. So I'll let Autumn take it away with this section.
So Fiji apparently found an interview about sapphic yearning, specifically with Fletcher. So the interviewer said at Covitor, "Why do you think yearning is such a central part of sapphic art?" And the one and only Fletcher said, "The gay yearn." I can't with her mouth. The gay yearn, it's so real. I feel like my music is a perfect example. As queer people, more often than not, we have been through some difficult struggles for self-acceptance and self-love. It's a deep journey. So when we arrive at a moment that we feel so deeply invigorated and alive, or feeling something for the first time after suppressing it for years, there's an emotional release. You think, whoa, I get to be who I am, even in all the ways that scare me or that I can't fully express yet. There's the yearning for belonging. And I think it's so interesting, like, for me, like, I did grow up with two moms, but I still didn't want to be gay. Like, I remember when I came out to my mom, I was crying. I was like, and I was young. I was like 13, like, when I had those feelings. And I was like, I don't want to be like you guys. Like, you guys are scared to hold hands, like, when we go to, like, whatever. And so it's like, even that, when I knew it was okay, I knew, like, I was going to have a happy life, like, I still didn't want to be, because society cuts so fucking deep, bro. Like,
yeah.
And so I think, yeah, and, like, especially thinking about Fletcher's songs, I mean, my God, they're all about love. They're all about self-healing. They're all about, you know, yearning for that better version of yourself. Better Version is literally one of her songs. But anyways, so, yeah. And I just think in general, like, queer relationships, women loving women relationships are just, like, so emotional. And especially when it's your first one, because, like, what she was talking about, it's like your first love, but you're also queer. It's like double. It's like,
yeah.
So it's just so fucking intense. And I think also it's like you kind of yearn for that same fire in all your other relationships too, even when sometimes that, like, gay fire isn't the healthiest either. Like, you gotta chill out a little bit. But no, I love this so much. And I think not just Fletcher, there's so many other queer artists, and I feel like they be yearning OD too. Like, it's definitely the queer way, if not the women way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I feel that even with, like, the acceptance and, like, stuff, like, within yourself, like, even though, like, I know that I'm, like, bisexual and everything like that, like, I don't think my family would have a problem with it, but I don't still feel comfortable talking about women or, like, whatever with my parents.
You're not, like,
weird.
jumping to be like...
Yeah, I'm like, if I were to ever get into a relationship with a woman, like, that would be a difficult thing. You know, I've had, like, casual relationships with women, but nothing, like, strong
where you would
that.
bring home to fucking your family. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I definitely feel that. And I need to listen to Fletcher more, especially since, like, I mean, at all. I haven't really listened to her.
Yeah, but it's like, I mean, I like Fletcher's music. I like her early albums are my favorite. I love what she's doing now too, but it's more just about, like, who she is as a human being. Like, she is the duality that we are. Like, her real name's Carrie.
Right.
And Fletcher is her last name, but she always talks about how Fletcher and Carrie are two different people. So I think I'm just kind of obsessed with her because of that as well. But I think especially her, that's been someone so viral in, like, the lesbian community, like, her sapphic yearn is, like, OD, because, like, everyone's relating to it so hard. Like, she literally has gone viral so many times. So, yeah, love her.
Yes. So let's get into this next Reddit story that's more sapphic yearning.
More sapphic yearning.
So this person said on our bisexual, the Reddit thread bisexual, sapphic yearning anyone. And they said, 46 female here, finally getting around to figuring my shit out. Came out as bi to my husband of 23 years last year. He has been very supportive. We are still monogamous, at least for now. He is actually very curious about ENM, which is ethical non-monogamy, but I am more skeptical. It's parentheses, it's half that I have no game and half that I have so many family responsibilities that I'm not sure how I have the bandwidth to do a good job with E&M. At least not till the kids are older / out of the house. In 23 years, I have not cheated on him, and I don't plan to. I feel the need to clarify that because of what I'm about to say next. All I can think about is women. Every minute of free mental space, I'm thinking about women. It's somewhat sexual, but also an emotional yearning. When I was younger, I had the chance to be with women and chose not to, for reasons, mostly having to do with internalized homophobia. But now that I finally acknowledge these feelings, it's like they're cranked. Wow. It's like they're cranked up to 11 and I don't know what to do with them. I just wonder if anyone else has experienced this. I keep thinking because I'm bi, parentheses, and not gay, my husband should be enough. I get intense crushes on men sometimes too, but this sapphic yearning has more of a forceful quality to it. Probably because I've repressed it for so long, and it's not just yearning for sex with a woman, but yearning to hold the door open for a woman, to hold hands with a woman, to be loved and desired by a woman, the whole package. I just wonder if any bisexuals can relate. Do you experience the intense interest in your gender less traveled sometimes? How do you deal with it, especially if you're staying monogamous? And woo! I felt like we're both bisexuals and we always talk about like leaning, but like how do you feel about that? Because she's been in a marriage for 23 years suppressing these feelings.
Yeah, I'm gonna be so real, especially because like she's probably not listening, but I know you love your husband. I know there's nothing wrong with your husband. If all you can think about is women and you want to experience that, girl, you got to go get that. I know that it's like, you know, with kids and like house responsibilities is something that like I can't even begin to relate to. So I get that if like that doesn't feel like an option right now. But it's like, yeah, it's like bisexuals are monogamous too. It's like, so if you're in a relationship with a man, but you're constantly thinking about women, it's like, how do you kind of navigate that? And I feel like for this specific person, it seems like they haven't had that with a woman ever. So I feel like a part of your bi awakening, it's like, yeah, you do need to kind of find that with a woman or you're going to continue to yearn for it forever. And I think that's hard because she obviously loves her husband, doesn't want to leave him. But, like, if this is taking over your life so much, or maybe being open,
Like, he's open to ethical non-monogamy, which I think is really important. And it's so funny because actually when I had Hinge a few months ago, I had matched with this woman who, like, if you had just seen her, you would have thought she was, like, classic mask lesbian. Like, I was, like, because her thing said ethical non-monogamy. So I was asking her about it, like, whatever. She was a little bit older. She was, like, married. Like, she, like, could have been this woman, honestly, because she was, like, older as well. But, like, she was telling me that, like, she had just, like, come into, like, realizing these feelings, and she was, like, exploring, but she was, like, partnered. And it's so funny because, like, 2 months later, I'd seen her on Hinge again because I had deleted it and got back, and she was, like, non-partnered anymore. So, like, I guess that they had split up. I don't know the tea. But I think it's so interesting, you know, because I also love that she calls herself bisexual because, like, I've even had a hard time, like, calling myself bisexual, even though I've had, like, sex with women and, like, all of those things, like, feelings. But this person clearly never has. But, yeah, I think it's something you need to explore, especially when you talk about, like, hand-holding and, like, holding each other. Like, that's so much deeper than just, like, I think even what ethical non-monogamy, like, can provide, like, I don't know. People do it differently, but, like...
I know, like, this feels like you kind of need to go fall in love with a woman, though.
Yeah.
Not just have, like, a sexy side piece that you're, like, casually seeing, but, like, we could be wrong, but it's, like, I know this is unrelated, but it reminds me of, like, I've known a lot of lesbians that got into relationships when they were, like, younger, and have dated them their whole queer life. So they've only been with that one woman, never any other woman. And they're like, I love my girlfriend so much, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, I want to experience more. And, like, this is kind of what that's like. It's like sometimes, like, you do kind of just got to leave. Or if they're amazing and the one for you, like, they'll wait for you. Like, I don't know. You know, that's tricky too. But I feel like for me, like, being with women so much, like, there was a part of me that, like, because I feel like I did the opposite. I suppressed my feelings for men and saying I was a lesbian, and, like, deep down now, I'm like, okay, well, I was kind of bi. I just had, like, this, like, male phobia. So I was like, I'm not going to explore that. But then I feel like I was really yearning for, like, male love. And, like, when I met up with my ex-boyfriend for the first time, started really liking him, like, it felt good. Like, so I'm being bi is hard. It's really fucking confusing. Like, I low-key wish it was just, like, one way or the other. Like, because sometimes it's just, like, a lot. But I mean, this woman's 46. She's been in a 23-year-old marriage, and she's having these feelings like, girl, you got to go figure that out.
Yeah.
Not figure it out, but just live. Like you want that. You deserve to have that.
I wonder, like, when she asks, like, is this, like, how do you deal with it, especially if you're someone monogamous, but, like, also is it part of the, like, bisexual experience? I don't know, because, like,
maybe.
Do you feel like, though, like, I don't know, like, I do think about sometimes, like, when I'm with a man right now, and I do think about sometimes, like, oh, am I meant to be with a woman? Like, I've never fully, completely explored that. What would that be like to be in a relationship with a woman? Like, am I missing out? Like, whatever. But, like, I also feel like I'm happy with the relationship that I have, that it's not something that, like, destroys me constantly. And I feel like it's more about the person than it is about the gender that I'm not longing for as much. But, like, I don't know. How do you feel? Because you've had relationships with both, like, long-term and intimately.
I don't think ever when I was with any of them, I, was, like, thinking about men or, like, thinking about women in the other way. I think, like, after, like, being with a man did change. Because for a while it was just all women. That's all I knew. But now, after having that relationship with a man, I could potentially see myself with a woman and kind of, like, thinking about men. But the thing is, like, you can get dick and pussy from women, like, with strap-ons. With guys, like, it's just dick. So, like, with women, you can kind of get it all. And I know that it's, like, strap-on's not the same. But, like, the way that I was, like, my sexual journey is, like, I got strapped before dick. So, like, to me, it's always been, like, enough, and I think it still would be, but no, I think it's really fucking confusing. And I think some bi people would be like, because it's a stereotype, so it'd be like, obviously, no, like, whoever I'm dating with, that's who I want to be with. But I think for me, it's a little different, because I am a little non-monogamy a little bit, like, just a little bit, but, like, not a lot. But so I think that it is something that I, like, think about. But that's why I feel like if you get that person that's, like, the perfect, like, masculine feminine combo for, like, what my type is, like, it's cool. Like, I don't know, it sounds, like, fucked up, but, like, I'm just being real.
Yeah, because I feel like I don't feel that as much. It's more about, like, the person, and that's why, like, looking at this, it's almost like, damn, I feel like this is almost, like, more of a story about, like, you might just want to be with women. I don't know, but, like, there is ethical non-monogamy, and I want to, like, honor that. Like, people can have, like, intimate relationships with both at the same time, and they be just as deep. Right. So, like, that's totally a thing. But I feel like for this person or anyone listening that's struggling with that as well, like, I think you need to explore that. Like,
no, you definitely do. Like, that constant, like, that she needs to, hands down. Yeah.
So the last thing I wanted to leave us with under this acceptance, understanding, sapphic yearning section was this other Reddit post that I saw that I just thought was cute and funny, and it just said, never stop yearning, and then there's this meme that says, fact, 90% of lesbians stop yearning right before they're about to manifest a girlfriend, which applied to the Reddit thread above. So it's just like, don't give up, you know?
Yeah, and I do feel like every lesbian on TikTok is indeed manifesting a girlfriend, or, like, feeling like they like they're single and, like, they don't want to be. And it's like Dason Afualo, Drew's sister, like, someone, like, came for her so annoying, was like, your whole personality and identity is that you're single and a lesbian. And she's like, yeah, what of it? Like, you know what I mean? Because it's like, exactly, yeah, what of it? Like, that is, you know, I do want that. I want a relationship. I'm yearning for it. And I really think lesbians are like the ultimate yearners. And I think
Yeah.
like all these fucking dating shows, like Love is Blind, like they're really like stealing queer culture. Because Love is Blind, like how many fucking long distance lesbians do you know that like did kind of
Hot
FaceTime,
take.
but they weren't like, you know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. But anyways.
Okay. All right. Well, moving on from sapphic yearning, we're going to get into purpose and meaning, yearning for a purpose and a meaning a little bit. And I want to start by discussing what this means to us. So I'll just say for me, like, I feel like I know when I was waitressing and like I first moved to Atlanta and like even in college, like I just wanted to do like work that was meaningful because like I feel like I love to work. Like I really do love to learn and like work and expand my brain. But I never really found like work that was like meaningful for me. And I feel like I find that in the podcast. Like I don't really have that in my 9 to 5, like as much, if at all. You know, but I don't think that this is it. Like, I still feel like I have, like, a yearning for more of a purpose and meaning. And especially, like, you know, it's hard sometimes when we've had, like, episodes not do so well and we feel like we're not connecting to a community and stuff like that. Like, that, like, receiving end of, like, oh, I have this, like, alleged purpose. But is it even, like, connecting with anyone, like, anything like that? So I feel like that's kind of where I'm at with the whole purpose meaning thing.
Yeah, I feel a lot of purpose within the podcast. Like, and I feel like for me, like, I am someone that, like, works hard. But I feel like for you, like, we're different in that way. Like, I feel like with the podcast for me, like, I get meaning out of it because, again, like, we're learning stuff. And it's, like, the community building. Like, I just want to connect with people and, like, be, like, a real voice online that's like try to not be filtered as much as possible because like everything we get is like so filtered. But I think for me too, just like happiness has always been a big thing. Like I was diagnosed with depression when I was 12. Like I started going to therapy when I was 12. Like I'm clinically depressed and I've known that for a long time that like I'm just gonna have to deal with that. Like I'm on Lexapro. I love Lexapro. It changed my life. Anyways, so happiness is, like being a child and just even into my adult life, it's like happiness, like yearning for just that, like waking up and like excited to take on the day, which obviously I do get that a lot. And you're never going to be excited about life every single day. But I think I just crave that feeling the most just because like I have felt so down. Like I know what that's like to like not want to die, but like not really want to be like conscious. Like I just want to sleep. So I think that's a big thing for me. And I think love is a big though. Like I think when I think about the meaning and purpose of life, like love does come into that, whether it's like you and like, you know, my roommate, my other best friend, like my mom, or like a more romantic connection, like just love in general.
Yeah, because I think we do find purpose and meaning. And I feel like so much of my life, like I had associated purpose and meaning with success and like financial gain. And I feel like, you know, my bank account is not super pretty right now, but I'm very established with like a place and like all of those things. So I feel like, and like my career is pretty good, all of that. And I got to that place and I'm like, wait, like I'm craving that purpose and meaning that comes from like love and relationships. So it's always like there's always something that's kind of gapping.
We also do live kind of like rich lifestyles when we're not actually rich though. Like we really like I'm like we need to get our nails done all the time. It's like it's not like we don't need to do that, but it's like I'm not happy if I'm not doing that.
Right, because those things feed your life. Like you're like, I don't want to live like stingy. Like my parents are so stingy. Like super whatever. And I watch them like pass up opportunities where I'm like, you're passing up living because you're saving for this later time period where you can enjoy all of life's fruits and labor or whatever. So I very much don't want I very much don't want to live like that, you know?
Yeah, but the last thing I want to say too, like for me, like I did get some like meaning out of like being a stripper as well, because I think like a big thing for me and like related to happiness is like me being fully happy is like me being a sexually confident human being. Like that makes me feel good. I love to dance. I love to be naked. And, like,
Yeah.
I think even though, like, the strip club experience wasn't all great, like, I did get some meaning out of it where it's like, you know, it's a skill. Like, everyone thinks they can be a stripper. No, the fuck you can't. Like,
no, you can't.
it's like,
I cannot
maybe
dance
you're
like
hot,
that.
but do you know how to talk to people? Do you know how to finesse people? Like, that's the art of stripping. And I generally just think I was fucking fire at it. Like, So, yeah, anyways, I'm done now.
Okay, well, this next quote that I just wanted to say about purpose and meaning, it says, inherent in the word yearn is both a layer of shame and a level of resignation to the impossible. We may long for things that seem out of reach, but we yearn for things that we should not want or cannot have. Pleasure, rest, and human connection are both fundamental to our survival and antithetical to our very way of existence. In our fast-paced and often work-centered lives, we seldom have time to pursue hobbies, properly cherish our loved ones, or create things that are not monetized. And when we do, we've been conditioned to feel guilty. In this way, through our perpetual yearning, we are not only craving specific people or material items, we are desiring the very conditions of our lives to change.
So fucking real. So fucking
real.
Because it's like, and this is like the positive side of yearning. It's like, no, you're not like yearning for this version of yourself for no reason. It's like because you are so indulged in your work, like you're not taking the time to do self-care and like do the things that make you happy. So we are desiring the very conditions of our lives to change. Like, I love that so much.
Yeah, and I love taking it outside of ourselves too, because it's like I always feel like when we talk about like systems of oppression and like capitalism and all of these things, like it takes the pressure off of you as this person that's like isolated and experiencing all of these things by yourself in your room, yearning, whatever. But when you like take steps back and zone out and realize like we live in a capitalistic world that has us working these 9-to-5 jobs like we talked about at the very beginning, where we don't have time to like go outside, to go work out, to spend times with friends, to spend time with family. It's kind of just like, okay, like we're all yearning.
Right.
Like we all feel like, you know, we can, I always feel like I can never give enough. Like, it's like I can give time to my friends and I can give time to my dog and watch a video essay. But then I'm not going to have time to work out or do my work or research the next podcast episode. Like, you're always having to pick and choose between these things and put them on a scale. And that's just like, it's the world we live in. We only have so much time. We need to make money. We need to provide for ourselves, all of those things. It's exhausting. So it's like, yeah, I feel like it sucks, but it's also like we're all going through it.
Right.
So.
And then you add like being a mother and having like that Reddit story of like having children and like house responsibilities. It's like they really have no time. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just, I mean, we don't either to an extent because we're still growing. Like, we need rest. Like,
yeah.
So do they, but it's just exhausting, and it's just a direct product of like the society that like we are products of the society that we're living in because of this, especially in the capitalistic world.
Okay, so let's transition into, can this yearning ever be satisfied, which I think is a big question for all of us. Yeah. And it's just something I want us to talk about, but one thing that I love is this meme I've had in my library forever, but I'm going to put it on the screen. It says, I tried to satisfy my yearning by using my sexuality as a tool for freedom, but all I got was the realization that being desired and being wanted are not the same thing, and neither satisfy the yearning. And I feel like this is kind of like how I feel about stripping, which I think is interesting because you just talked about how it's kind of like different for you, but like I feel that way a lot in like the whole experience about like being a woman. It's like you want to own you're yearning to own your sexuality, and then you own it, but it's then you're yearning for like love and being understood outside of your sexuality, and like it almost seems like you get to like one point and then it's never enough. You want to keep going to the next one. So it's like, yeah, can it ever be satisfied?
Yeah, I think for me it's like I do agree with it. Like I can feel like both ways. It's like, and I think for me I always judged myself like, why am I so sexual? Why am I so horny? Like growing up, and then when I became a stripper, I'm like, it made sense. Like I was like, oh, like I'm just the type of bitch that would like, I guess, do this. Mm-hmm. Like, But I get it. It's like, and maybe it's like a part of me is like, I got a lot of confidence from being a stripper, but it's like those men never really valued me. Like they were completely using me. They were playing the game just like I was, playing it damn fucking good too. But so I feel that because it's like, you don't go home at the end of the night feeling like $1 million all the time when you're a stripper.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you feel like very low about yourself. It just depends on the night. But no, I love this meme. I think it's so relatable. I'm like, you didn't make this? Like this, sounds like something you would like make and say.
And I think it's applicable to not just like sexuality, like as a woman or whatever, but even like a relationship. Like if you're yearning for intimacy and love and like you get this relationship, just because you're in a relationship does not mean that you've satisfied that intimacy and love, because there's going to be things that are lacking in that relationship. So I think it's like with everything, it's like, I don't know, you might satisfy one yearning, but like, it's just like, what is success? Like, is
Right.
it ever a point? What is happiness? Like, are we ever going to reach this or not?
I think like sometimes like depending on what you're yearning for, like it can be satisfied, but I also think maybe the second it is, you'll start yearning for something else, because I do think, like we said at the beginning, like yearning is like a very integral part of like being a human being and like existing in this world. Like we're all yearning for things constantly. So yes, maybe you can satisfy something, but something else is going to come up. Like I just feel like, you know, we're constantly yearning. So it's like maybe some things can be satisfied, but there's always going to be something else. We can always improve and like look towards new things we want to be. Like that's never going to really change. And I don't think it's 100% a bad thing. Like I think it's part of being human.
Yeah, and I think it's motivation that like drives us to like accomplish more,
Get
put
shit
ourselves
done.
out there, like all of that. But next I want to get into coping with yearning, like how do we cope with yearning, all of that. And the first question that we asked you guys, the last poll actually, is do you think you cope with yearning in a healthy way? And 68% of you guys said yes, and only 32% said no. And this was honestly shocking for me and had me doing some self-reflection, because I feel like I do not cope with yearning, and I don't cope with any emotions well, honestly. Like I think that I have like we were talking about the instant gratification stuff earlier and everything, like for me it's always been sex, drugs, and alcohol, like bad. And, like, particularly alcohol, probably. Right. Like, going out and, like, sex and all of that, like, definitely more in the past. But, like, if I ever feel an uncomfortable emotion, if I'm ever yearning for the past or longing for whatever, the immediate response for me is to go to the corner store and get a bottle of wine and drown in my sorrows and listen to music or, like, record shitty music. Like, that's what I do. Like, that's like, and sometimes I'll like create art or whatever, but it's usually like under the influence. And I know like that's something I'm working through in therapy. Like it's not the best coping mechanism. And it also had me thinking, like watching One Day, which I know you haven't seen, but like in that show, there's the guy and the girl, and the guy, like he becomes like famous and like successful and all of those things, but he's like dealing with grief because his mother passed and all that stuff, but he starts like drinking a lot and like kind of coping with this like gap and this yearning in like an unhealthy way. Mm-hmm. So I know it's common. Like people, when I feel like it's always this persistent void in this gap that I'm trying to fill with a substance or an experience that will make me feel better.
Yeah.
You know? So I don't know.
Yeah. I also feel like sometimes, if I may talk about you as a human being.
Yes.
Like, especially when, like, we're thinking about, like, the podcast or just where you want to be in, like, 5 years. Like, sometimes, not all the time, I think, like, you, through yearning for what you want, you, like, make yourself feel bad about it in the process. Yeah. Like, you're not, like, doing the most. You're not, like, good enough to do it. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's when I think it's like that, because there's like positive and negative yearning like going on with all of us for sure.
Yes.
So I think it's just like paying attention to that. Like we don't want yearning to be a negative experience. We want it to be motivating. And so, but yeah, that the poll surprised me too. I mean, I definitely don't cope the best way either. Like I isolate, and like we all have our drugs of choice. Like mine's weed. And I will, like, I've honestly, this year is the first year I've like woke up and like had like whiskey or Baileys just because I was like, I needed to take the edge off. Like I didn't get drunk, but like tipsy, like at like 11 a.m. I've never done that in my life. But it's like, so I get it. Like, it's like, you know, we are substance girlies. Like we like substances. We're not like proud of it necessarily.
We're not promoting, but like
we're not promoting it.
Like, and it's like, I don't know, because I do want to stress like what I think I do think I've developed healthy coping mechanisms, like as far as,
you got to give yourself some
working
more credit.
out and like reading. Like I have all of that during the day, but I'm thinking of like when it's close to nighttime or evening, and I'm feeling this indescribable yearning for something or some uncomfortable emotion is always when I go for like wine or White Claws or like whatever. So it's like, I don't know, like maybe I just like I'm thinking of the question as like cope, and I'm like hyper focusing on that. But I do think there's healthy ways that I do cope as well. I voted no. I'm one of those. Yeah,
I voted no as well, definitely. But I also think people don't know how deep yearning really is. Like maybe they're thinking about yearning and like just wanting the perfect boyfriend, and that's not taking over their whole life. I think after listening to the episode, it might be like, oh, because it was probably like that for me too. Like I didn't realize how universal yearning was to the human being experience. I thought it was just like another trend. So I think if people learned more, they might change their answer.
Yeah, definitely. So getting into a little bit about how to cope with this longing, this article from The Guardian is called How the Pandemic Got Us Addicted to Longing and Why It's Bad for Us. Gives a little bit of professional advice. So it says, why do we long? Neuroscience suggests that our brains are wired to crave what we don't have. Dopamine, known as the happy hormone, is released not when we get what we want, but when we anticipate getting it. Our brains release more dopamine planning a vacation than taking it. Even thinking about touch you crave can trigger the release of dopamine in the reward system. Once we get what we want, the dopamine fades, and so we crave more. With anticipation being a key stage in happiness and depression rates in the U.S. tripling last year, it's no wonder so many people find themselves longing.
Like, that's literally what I said. I was like, yeah, we might satisfy that specific yearn, like that vacation, but then it's like something else comes up. So I guess I'm literally like a scientist.
You're a neuroscientist.
I'm like, it's so true. It's like it really... and it's like, honestly, the vacation shit has me shook because why is that true? Why is that actually true?
And that's like everything that they say about,
I don't know.
Happiness and success. Because, like, you know, I like listen to so many podcasts, whatever, like On Purpose by Jay Shetty, which he's in some controversy right now. So, like, I don't know. But, like, one of the things, like, he talks about as, like, a monk, like, a Buddhist, whatever, is, like, it's about the journey and not, like, the destination. Like, not to be corny, like, whatever. But, like, really, like, it's, like, and I try to think about that, like, even with the podcast. Like, we remind each other, like, all the time. We're, like, you know, like, we want this eventually, but we just gotta, like, appreciate where we're at, like, right now. Because, like, I try to constantly, like, ground myself in that. Because who knows? Like, I feel like so many people talk about, like, reaching this point of success, and it's just kind of feels empty because you've been anticipating it for so long.
Right.
But it's so crazy that the dopamine is in the longing. Like, what?
I know, like, what? But yeah, it's like the anticipation of what you want is like where the dopamine thrives rather than actually existing in that moment.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us, but even like going to the gym, like once not like when I make the decision to go, but once I'm like on the treadmill, like I feel fucking good as fuck because I know I'm about to do like an uphill, like however long situation. So once I'm there, I know I'm gonna complete that bitch. So yeah,
it's the journey, not the destination, guys. And I feel like it's so weird with yearning because, like, sometimes you can't put your finger on exactly what it is that you want, but, like, if you pay attention to that feeling and what you're after, like, that journey of, like, completing it is really the part that's triggering the dopamine. So
and if you're like, well, I don't really know what I'm yearning for, because I feel like I'm at that point with some areas of my life, it's like journal about it. I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
Get it all out. So this part of the article says, can we stop longing. To change a behavior, we have to get out of our heads and into our bodies. Beyond the thrill, the dopamine hit we get from anticipating, we must consider the cumulative effect it has on us. The post-dopamine letdown, the emotional energy and time wasted, and the impact on those around us. Dr. Neerat Soffer-Dudek, a consciousness researcher at Ben-Gurion University of the Negev, suggests that psychotherapy for MDD patients should help them be more mindful in the present, less judgmental of themselves, and more aware of what triggers the behavior they want to change. A lot of people escape to these other realities because they don't like themselves in real life. Self-acceptance should be a major part of the treatment, alongside changing what we can change. The key question is, what is the emotion behind the need to crave something, someone, or somewhere other than what you have right now? Oh, why you gotta get so deep with it? But that's so fucking real. Like, it's like, and that's like what I was saying with you. It's like you're yearning, but in the process, it's like, well, like, what's wrong with right now? Like, what's wrong with, think about us 2 years ago. We didn't have shit about any of it.
And that's always what I think about. Like, I always think about, like, when I was in my abusive, toxic relationship, like, versus where I am now. Like, I always have to, like, bring myself out of that and be like, okay, like, there's so many little wins in the process that I didn't even realize, because I'm always going after something bigger. But I did also want to say that when he said MDD patients, that's maladaptive daydream disorder, which is pretty much like the intense feeling. It's a condition where a person regularly experiences daydreams that are intense and highly distracting. So it's kind of like going into limerence and yearning, but like when it's like so intense.
And that's like an actual disorder. Yeah.
It's an actual disorder, yeah. But like I love how he says like get out of your head and like into your body.
Yeah.
Like that is so big, because I always feel like that, like when I'm in my like healthy Fiji brain, it's like, oh, I feel this way, go work out, go walk my dog, like all of those things, you know?
And I think just with healing trauma in general, it's to get out of your head, get out of your head and into your body. Like, it's so real. And like, I feel like with talk therapy and all this shit, it's like, no, you really have to like feel it and not be so like hard on yourself, because that's where that is, in your head. And it's like a lot of people escape to these other realities because they don't like themselves in real life. It's like, that's a problem. That's not healthy yearning.
Yeah.
So that's something, that's a big red flag. If you're like wanting stuff, that is because you don't like yourself in your real life. And I mean, I feel like I've struggled with that just by like feeling like a dual person. Like,
yeah,
you know,
same. And I think therapy really helps. Yeah, therapy does really help with that. Like for me, like particularly, like I feel like talking it out, like meeting with a person, journaling, like you said, meditating, all of those things. Like all of that to say, we're gonna wrap up with what we're wet, dry, and confused about the topic in a minute. But first, we have a listener story. This listener story was from someone on YouTube. It was on our period sex episode. And we just like thought it was a really good story, and we really wanted to share and address it. So
this listener said, hey, so I have a question that would be cool for you guys to cover one day, but I have a boyfriend who has like hella sensory issues. He has a very limited diet because a lot of foods have texture he can't stand. Damn, that's tough. One of those things he can't eat is my pussy. This is fine by me because I also have really bad sensory problems, but in regards to sound and touch instead. The issue for me lies in the fact that he has a hard time even looking at it. Like, bro, how can you be into women but get turned off looking at a woman's pussy? I realize most people would tell me to break up with him over this, because usually this sort of behavior is also accompanied by other selfish behaviors, but I promise you that's not him. He's very sweet and a people pleaser to an unhealthy extent. Parentheses, I didn't even know he was afraid of it until a year into our relationship. Yeah, damn, girl. That's tough.
A lot.
That really is. I feel you at the part where it's like, okay, you don't want to eat me out, but you can't look at it. Like, that's a part of my body. And I understand that, like, he has sensory issues and all of that. But, I mean, I definitely think you got to bring this up with him. Because I believe you. I mean, I'm sure he is a good person outside of that. But if that's something that's, like, really affecting you in the relationship, you deserve to have your voice heard. And if he's a really good person, is the one for you, like, even if it's hard for him, he'll be able to at least hear you out. And you guys can, like, talk about it together. And I don't know if you like to get your pussy eaten. Like, I personally don't. But if you do, like, you know, even if he's not going to eat it, you still deserve to be like, you know, yeah, that kind of does suck for me. And maybe you guys can compromise in some sort of way. But that's tough. Damn.
Yeah, I feel like the part that concerns me is the part about, like, looking at it that's a little bit, like, concerning. And, like, I hope that doesn't make you insecure in any way because, like, you know, like, as women, we're already, like, so insecure. I feel like, when my pussy's not waxed all the way, like, whatever,
Right.
I'm like, oh my God, I don't want them to
But
look,
wait,
like, whatever.
I feel, you know how, like, when you look at an object, like, look at anything around you right now, and then think about yourself licking it. Like, you can imagine what that shit would feel like. Don't actually do it. Think about it. Is what I'm saying. Like, have you ever heard this before?
No.
It's like when I look at this book down there, like, I can think about what it would take. Like, I know what that would feel like against my tongue. So maybe for him, it's like,
Okay.
he looks at her
Like the
pussy and he's
sensor.
thinking, like, he already knows. I don't know.
Okay, like, I guess, like, it's hard because, like, it's nice that, like, she has sensory issues so she can relate. On a level of, like, this is an actual, like, medical problem. I did have one ex when I was, and I was, like, iffy to bring this up because I'm, like, I want to be conscious, but, like, also I feel like it could be an age or experience thing because, like, when I was 20, I was dating a guy, and he was, like, iffy about eating pussy, like, whatever. Like, he was like, I don't know. Like, I've never really done it. Like, it's never really been my thing, da-da-da. But he, like, wanted to. Like, he was, like, open to it. And he, like, tried a couple times, and it wasn't the best. And then he actually ate my pussy, like, on my period. And I was like, you don't have to do it. But that was, like, when he had his surge of fucking motivation. And he, like, wanted to do it. So I was like, okay, go ahead. But, like, I don't know. So I guess that would be one thing that I would, like, wonder, like, taking into consideration, like, how old are you guys? Because I think, like, if you are younger and it's, like, one of your first, like, relationships, then, like, there is a learning curve. Like, I remember when I was younger, the thought of sucking dick was not appealing to me. Like, now I know I'm very attracted to men. I love sucking dick. But I remember my first boyfriend whipping it out and writing me letters about why I should suck it, and I was like, no fucking way. Like, I was just like, it was so scary because you've never touched it before. So, like, I would say, like, if you're younger or if this is, like, his first long-term relationship, like, you know, there's a learning curve, but also she said they're a year in.
Right. And the frustration is that he can't look at it, and she's like, bro, if you're attracted to women, you can't look at my... And then it gets wishy-washy because just it's like genitals, gender, blah, blah.
It's worth a conversation. If he's open to, like, what is it, exposure therapy or, like, learning or, like, watching porn, maybe he needs... Let him watch porn. Like, look at other girls' pussies. Like, in a space that's away from you where he's not pressured into doing something to it.
Right.
Like, where he just has to look at it. And, like, watch other people eat pussy or something like that. And then I would say, like, beyond that, if that doesn't work, I would say therapy.
Yeah.
Like, talk therapy, maybe couples therapy is
For
what I
both
would
of
suggest. Yeah.
And also, it's like, do you want to have your pussy eaten? Because if you do, like, you deserve
I
that.
think she does, yeah.
Because she said the issue, that isn't the exact issue for her, but it's like, that's part of it.
Conversation first. If he's open to learning, suggest porn and looking at other girls' pussies and, like, whatever. And don't, like, hopefully you're not, like, you know, don't get jealous about that, whatever. Like, I think it's, like, for your benefit. Then try, if not, therapy.
Yep, agreed. All right, bitches. Well, with that, let's wrap up the episode like we always do. We're going to do our wet, dry, and confused segment on the show.
Oh.
So Sorry, I'll start. I definitely, like, I'm wet about the gained knowledge. I'm wet about how deep
I
we
thought
get.
you were going to say the gay knowledge. I was like...
What about how deep we get on this fucking podcast? I definitely feel like I have had an enlightenment in terms of what yearning actually means and how crucial it is, how beneficial it can be, but also, like, keeping an eye on the warning signs in terms of, like, if it's not benefiting you. I'm definitely wet about Fletcher and the sapphic gay situation.
Yeah.
Or no, the gay yearn. Yeah, the sapphic yearn, the gay yearn. I mean, it's so real, and, like, just having a platform to be able to talk about that is really fucking cool. Because, like, we didn't even get into, like, I've read some lesbian fiction novels. It's like the yearning is just on 20. Like, it's, so 20? I'm definitely wet about that.
On 20?
Like, on 10, but it's like 20.
Okay. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm also wet about how it's like we want men to be yearning, but we're at, like, a place in our lives where we're able to recognize that maybe we don't give men the space to yearn the way we want them to. Maybe not in all situations, but yeah, that's my wet.
Yeah, I'm wet about, like, honestly the whole topic. Like, I've seen this in, like, memes so fucking much, and, like, I've been so excited. Like, I've sat with this topic for a while, like, both of us have, because, like, we didn't record for a minute, and, like, in that process of researching it, like, I was just thinking so much about, like, writing and, like, art and, like, all these things that I haven't been doing as much.
I know.
And I feel like
part.
Like, so much of, like, that is yearning for me. Like, I feel like even, like, just, like, writing poetry, all of that, like, comes from a place of yearning. So it's like, I want to appreciate the beauty that is yearning and all of the, like, great art that has come from it, and also, like, that inspires me to keep creating my own art.
And, like, fashion even, and, like, painting, like, all of that.
Yeah, like, thank God for yearning, because it does create art. So I'm wet about that. I'm also wet about learning.
I know.
About yearning in terms of, like, the sapphic experience.
Yeah.
Because that was, like, new, and, like, Fletcher, I still need to listen to her. But, like, that was definitely, like, a cool bit of information that I learned about. So.
Right. I mean, I'm definitely dry about, like, the, like, yearning and, like, not being happy with yourself, and, like, the addiction part that we talked about, like, also the coping with yearning is a little difficult in the capitalist society, not having, like, the time to properly yearn and satisfy those yearns. So I feel like that, yeah.
I know, we're both lit at this point, guys. We recorded yesterday, too. It's been long. But I agree. Like, definitely for me, top thing is, like, this fucking capitalist society. I want to have more time for myself. Like, I'm blessed and privileged that I work from home, like, both of us are. Like, it gives us more time, like, without the commute and all of those things. But still, like, I don't feel like I have enough fucking hours or energy in the day to complete all of these things. And so it does leave a lot of yearning. I'm also dry about, like, the men thing, because, like, I feel that totally, like, when I think about my relationships with men, and, like, not when I'm, like, completely, like, single, but, like, in my, like, situationships. In my situationships or whatever, I'm like, oh, do men yearn, da-da-da-da, but, like, of course they fucking do. Like, we need to stop, like, letting the Andrew Tates and the, like, alpha male influencers of the world, like, make us think that, like, men aren't soft and have emotions, like, and all of that. And I think we constantly need to check ourselves in that and pay attention to who we fuck with as well. So, like, definitely, like, kind of dry about that situation, but also, like, wet about, like, reconsidering it.
Right, because look at your best friend from back home, the guy, like, he yearns for damn fucking sure.
He all day.
Like, I feel like we can at
but
least
he's also
identify. Well,
yeah,
I know. I knew you were gonna say that. Let's just pretend he wasn't for this fucking purpose. Yeah, but I know
my
it's
brother
hard.
though. My brother, like, I've had, like, good conversations with my brother when he was here, straight man, and he was yearning. You know, so, like, I think it's about, like, when you get to know men on a deeper level, like, they yearn.
Right, they yearn. They all yearn. I think for confused, it's a little bit hard. I definitely do want to do an episode on limerence. I feel like that's a really good idea. Like, I feel like I'm a little confused about that, maybe.
Yeah.
So, like, want to dive into that. I also just want to bring up the nostalgia factor again, because I think that was a great part of this whole episode, and it really ties hand in hand with everything. Like, part of yearning is very nostalgic, and, like, the way that we yearn now is different than how people did yearn in the 80s and all of that. So I think we kind of yearn for that nostalgic, more like real, raw love without internet and all this other shit and filters and dating apps and blah, blah. We yearn for that past, like, you meet in a meadow. Like, I don't fucking know.
I'm a little bit confused about, like, yearning for the past, because it's like, it's weird, because it's like that yearning, like that nostalgia that you're never gonna get again, but it's like beautiful, like appreciate the moment, like whatever. So I think that I'm definitely confused about, and just like you said,
yearning
like
for past loves is real for me. Like with my first girlfriend, like I feel like I yearn to find that again, and I really romanticize like that time of my life.
Yeah, and that's confusing, because it's like you don't really want it, but like,
yeah, it was miserable.
You do,
like
right?
What? I mean, yeah, but yeah,
it's like appreciating the moment, all of those things. But yeah, definitely confused about like the coping stuff. But you know, I have a therapist for all of that. So.
Yeah, so we good. Hopefully, you guys do too. But yeah, I guess that about does it for this episode. Thank you guys seriously so much for listening. Even if you didn't make it through to the end, you know, we still love you. We appreciate you, but especially if you did. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube. Follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. We're on Instagram, TikTok, at So Wet So Dry. The O's are zeros. That's what we are on every single platform. Yeah, you know, comment, like, we always engage in the comments. We really just want to build a community with you guys, so we can eventually like do a Discord group chat one day and like things like that. But we're still building the community. So if you want to be a part of it, be vocal and let your girls know. Also, you can always email us, sowetsodry@gmail.com. The O's are zeros. Share a story, ask for advice, spread some fucking gossip you're dying to get off your chest, like anything. So just
suggest a topic, all of that.
Yeah, reach out.
And if you guys are listening on Spotify, even if you aren't, there's a link at the bottom of every single episode. We offer listener support. It's 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99 a month. We don't make any fucking money from this. We are still looking for brand deals. So also, if you're a brand that somehow made it to the end of the fucking episode, hit us up. We'll try to swear less. I don't know. But yeah, we could really use some money so that we can achieve this yearning of wanting to do this full time and leave the corporate world, which drives us insane. But even if not, you know, we still love you.
We appreciate the journey. Yeah.
We appreciate the journey. We love you guys so much, all our little yearners, and we will catch you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Have you ever been like kind of like touching someone, chilling with someone, like maybe in public or whatever, where you like kind of have a mini orgasm because like the energy or like the whatever?
No, babe. Or maybe I have, but I'm like, you have orgasms in your ears. Like, you have orgasms everywhere.
In
I'm
my
like,
mouth, I have, but like, yeah.
What? Like, I'm like, what?
Like, because I've had orgasms before where I've seen like colors.
Here
or
we
like
go. Here we go with the colors in the mouth.